They hurt you. You step away. They apologize, explain, become gentle for a few days, or act as if the moment was not serious. And then you hand them the key again, not a literal key, something more valuable. You give them immediate access to your attention. You tell them what you are afraid of. You explain the decision you are still trying to make. You answer the late call. You reopen the private conversation. You let their mood change the atmosphere of your day. Soon, the same pattern returns. A confidence becomes a weapon. A limit becomes an argument. A vulnerable sentence becomes material for a joke. A moment of kindness is followed by another moment in which you are expected to absorb what they refuse to govern in themselves. Then you ask the wrong question. Why do they keep doing this? That question may matter, but it is not the first question under your control. The first question is this: why do they still have the same access? Many people think a boundary begins when they persuade someone to treat them differently, so they explain more clearly. They collect better examples. They wait for the perfect moment. They try to make the other person understand the pain with such precision that repeating it becomes impossible. But understanding is not the same as change. An apology is not the same as change. Regret is not the same as change. And your hope is not evidence of change. This does not mean people cannot grow. It does not mean one mistake defines a person forever. It means closeness should correspond to conduct. Emotional access is not a prize you owe everyone you love. It is permission to enter the parts of your life that can be influenced, disturbed, protected, or damaged. Who hears your private fears? Who gets an immediate answer? Who is invited into your unfinished decisions? Whose opinion can change the way you see yourself? Who receives another opportunity after the same promise has already failed? This video is not about becoming cold. It is not about disappearing to make someone miss you. It is not about turning silence into revenge. It is about learning that compassion and access are different decisions. You can wish someone well without giving them the private map of your life. You can forgive without restoring the previous level of closeness. You can remain civil while becoming less available. You can love someone and still refuse to let their ungoverned behavior govern your peace. The key does not have to remain in the same hands simply because it was there yesterday. Emotional access is easy to misunderstand because it is invisible. A locked door is obvious. A closed gate can be seen. But emotional access is made of small permissions. It is the permission to interrupt you whenever they feel distressed. It is the permission to know information they have not handled carefully. It is the permission to comment on decisions that belong to your conscience. It is the permission to place their urgency above your judgment. It is the permission to bring the same unresolved conflict into every new conversation. It is the permission to influence your inner climate long after they leave the room. You can reduce emotional access without making an announcement. You answer when you have the capacity instead of when the notification appears. You stop discussing a subject with someone who repeatedly turns it into contempt. You share finished decisions instead of inviting commentary during the most vulnerable stage. You move a conversation from private emotion to practical facts. You stop volunteering personal information to a person who has shown that privacy is temporary in their hands. You meet in a public or structured setting instead of entering the same intimate environment where every limit dissolves. Notice what all of these actions have in common. They do not require the other person to agree. That is the Stoic center of the issue. Your task is not to control another person's character. Your task is to govern your judgment, your speech, your attention, and your participation. The other person may call the change unfair. They may say you are different. They may accuse you of being distant. They may become unusually kind when they notice that access is no longer automatic. Their response is information. It is not a command. Emotional access also has more than one level. Imagine a classical house. There is an outer court where visitors can be received with dignity. There is an inner room where trusted people are invited to sit, speak honestly, and see what is not shown to everyone. And there is a private chamber where your deepest fears, plans, loyalties, and decisions are kept. Not everyone belongs in every room. Some people deserve courtesy but not confidence. Some deserve conversation, but not influence. Some may be close in one area of life and limited in another. A colleague may have access to your work, but not your family conflict. A relative may have a place at the table, but not a vote in your marriage. A friend may hear that you are having a difficult week, but not receive every private detail after breaking your confidence. This is not cruelty. It is architecture. A well-built life has doors, thresholds, and rooms for a reason. One painful moment should not automatically become a final verdict. People misjudge. They speak carelessly. They fail under pressure. They misunderstand. You do too. Stoic judgment requires more than wounded pride. It asks you to see the event accurately. What happened? What was actually said or done? Was the harm acknowledged without being minimized? Was repair attempted? Did behavior change after the conversation? These questions protect you from two opposite errors. The first error is giving permanent access because you are afraid of seeming harsh. The second is removing all access because one difficult moment injured your ego. The useful distinction is between an event and a pattern. An event can be serious. A pattern can be subtle. Frequency is not the only measure. Some actions require immediate protection, especially where safety, threats, coercion, or serious betrayal are involved. But in ordinary conflict, a pattern becomes visible through repetition. The same private information is shared again. The same insult appears when the person is angry. The same boundary becomes negotiable every time they dislike it. The same apology arrives without a different action. The same crisis makes your needs disappear. The same conversation ends with you doubting what you clearly observed. Do not invent motives when behavior is enough. You do not need to prove that someone planned to hurt you. You do not need a perfect label. You do not need to know whether they are selfish, insecure, careless, confused, or afraid. You need to know what repeatedly happens when they receive a certain level of access. This changes the internal question. Instead of asking, "Are they a bad person?" ask, "What happens when I give them private information?" Instead of asking, "Do they love me?" ask, "What happens when I say no?" Instead of asking, "Did they mean it?" ask, "What changed after they understood the effect?" Instead of asking, "Should I forgive?" ask, "What level of access is wise now?" Forgiveness concerns what you carry. Access concerns what you permit. They can move separately. You may release the desire to punish someone while still deciding that the old closeness is no longer supported by evidence. You may accept an apology while allowing trust to rebuild slowly. You may understand why someone acted badly without volunteering to experience the same pattern again. Pain is data. A pattern is evidence. And access should be decided by evidence, not by the panic of the moment or the comfort of an apology. A boundary is often spoken as if it were an order. Do not talk to me that way. Do not call me after midnight. Do not share what I tell you. Do not involve me in this argument again. These may be reasonable requests, but a request becomes a boundary only when it is connected to your action. If the conversation becomes insulting, I will end it. If calls continue late at night, I will silence my phone and answer the next day. If private information is shared again, I will stop sharing private information. If this argument begins again, I will not participate. The difference is not aggression. The difference is ownership. The first version depends on their obedience. The second version clarifies your participation. This is where many boundaries fail. The viewer speaks clearly, but then remains in the same room for another hour. He says he will not discuss the subject, then answers 12 more accusations. He says trust must be rebuilt, then returns every privilege because the other person becomes upset. The sentence was clear. The behavior contradicted it. People learn the real boundary from what happens after the sentence. This does not mean punishment. A consequence is not an invented suffering designed to teach someone a lesson. It is the natural change required to prevent the same access from producing the same harm. If a cup is cracked, you do not hate the cup. You stop trusting it with what it cannot hold. If a gate does not close, you repair the gate. You do not stand beside it all night explaining why the garden matters. Your action should be proportionate, calm, and connected to the behavior. Less privacy after privacy is violated. Less availability after availability is repeatedly exploited. Shorter conversations after every long conversation becomes circular. Structured contact after unstructured contact becomes chaotic. Distance after repeated contempt. Formal documentation when a workplace issue requires it. Outside support when the situation is serious or unsafe. The purpose is protection and clarity, not domination. You are not trying to make them feel the loss of access. You are making your life consistent with what you now know. You do not need only two settings, complete closeness or complete removal. That false choice keeps many people trapped. They think, if I do not cut this person off, I must return to normal. Or, if I reduce access, I am declaring them an enemy. There is a more precise way. Level 1 is civil access. You can be polite. You can exchange necessary information. You can attend the same gathering. You can cooperate on practical tasks. But the conversation stays near the outer court. You do not offer private fears to someone who uses vulnerability as leverage. You do not ask for emotional guidance from someone whose judgment becomes contempt when you disagree. You do not turn courtesy into renewed trust. Level 2 is limited personal access. There is room for conversation, shared history, ordinary warmth, and selected personal information. But there are clear closed rooms. Certain subjects are not discussed. Response time is not immediate. Requests are considered instead of automatically accepted. The person may be part of your life without being placed at the center of it. Level 3 is trusted access. This includes vulnerability, influence, mutual support, honest disagreement, and the expectation that private information remains protected. Trusted access should not be granted by title alone. Family is not automatic evidence. History is not automatic evidence. Chemistry is not automatic evidence. An intense apology is not automatic evidence. Trust is supported by conduct across time. The person can hear no without turning your limit into a trial. They can receive truth without punishing honesty. They can apologize without demanding immediate comfort. They can disagree without using what you revealed in a vulnerable moment. They can repair without making you manage their shame. And when you fail, they can hold you accountable without attacking your worth. The 3 levels are not a rigid system for ranking human beings. They are a way to stop giving the same privilege to every relationship. Ask of one specific person, what access do they have now? What access has their conduct actually earned? Where is the gap? That gap is often where your exhaustion lives. Take one relationship that repeatedly leaves you hurt, confused, or depleted. Do not begin with the person's entire character. Begin with 5 forms of access. First, access to your time. Can they interrupt plans whenever they are distressed? Do you cancel your priorities because their urgency arrives loudly? Are you available immediately, even when the issue is not urgent? Second, access to your attention. How long does one interaction remain in your mind? Do you spend hours preparing, replaying, predicting, and recovering? Do they occupy the day, even when they are absent? Third, access to your private information. What do they know? How have they handled what they know? Do your fears return later as jokes, accusations, gossip, or leverage? Fourth, access to your decisions. Do you consult them because their judgment is wise or because you fear their reaction? Do you announce a choice and then abandon it when they disapprove? Have they become an invisible audience inside your head? Fifth, access to your emotional labor. Are you expected to calm every crisis, translate every mood, excuse every outburst, and restore every conversation? Can they experience discomfort without making it your assignment? Now write 2 columns. In the first, write what you are currently giving. In the second, write what the relationship has consistently shown it can hold. Do not use ideal versions of either person. Do not write what you hope they will become. Write what has happened. Perhaps you are giving immediate availability to someone who offers respect only when you agree. Perhaps you are giving private information to someone who repeatedly shares it. Perhaps you are giving decision-making influence to someone who must be pleased before you can feel certain. Perhaps you are doing the emotional work for both sides of a relationship. The audit is not a courtroom. You do not need to build a case that would convince strangers. It is an instrument of proportion. Closeness should not exceed capacity. Influence should not exceed wisdom. Privacy should not exceed trust. Availability should not exceed reciprocity and your real responsibilities. This audit will often reveal that the problem is not only what another person does, it is that access has remained unchanged while the evidence has changed. Consider a simple example. A man has a friend he has known for many years. The friend can be generous, funny, and present during ordinary weeks. But whenever he feels rejected, he repeats private conversations to other people and recruits them into the conflict. After the first incident, the man explains why it matters. The friend apologizes. After the second, the friend says he only shared the story because he needed advice. After the third, the conversation becomes a debate about whether the information was truly private. The man keeps asking whether the friendship is good or bad. That question is too large to guide the next action. A better question is whether this friendship can currently hold confidential information. The answer is no. That answer does not decide the entire future of the friendship. It decides one form of access. The man can still meet for coffee. He can still be courteous. He can still appreciate the history they share. But he stops placing unfinished pain in hands that have repeatedly opened around it. Now imagine a different situation. A relative becomes demanding whenever the man makes a decision without consulting him. The relative does not share private information or insult him, but every independent choice creates days of pressure, questions, and disappointed silence. The access problem is not privacy, it is influence. The man may choose to share decisions after they are made, rather than during the stage when he is still thinking. He is not hiding. He is removing an unnecessary vote. Precision matters because a vague response creates unnecessary damage. If he cuts off both people completely, he may act beyond the evidence. If he changes nothing, he ignores the evidence. The access audit reveals the proportionate middle. Not every change requires an announcement. You can stop answering immediately without delivering a speech. You can share less. You can decline an invitation. You can move a conversation to a public place. You can stop asking for advice. But when a relationship matters, when the behavior may not be understood, or when responsibility requires clarity, speak. Keep the sentence clean. Name the behavior. Name the standard. Name your action. When private things I share are repeated to other people, I stop feeling safe sharing them. I will keep personal matters private from now on. I am willing to discuss the disagreement. I am not willing to stay in a conversation with insults. If they begin, I will leave and we can try another time. I cannot be available for calls late at night unless it is an emergency. I will answer the next day. I have made this decision. I am informing you, not asking you to approve it. Notice what these sentences do not contain. They do not diagnose. They do not review the other person's entire history. They do not predict motives. They do not threaten humiliation. They do not ask permission. A clean boundary can still be kind. Kindness is not the removal of all discomfort. Sometimes clarity disappoints people. Sometimes a person who benefited from unlimited access will experience proportion as rejection. You can listen to their response without surrendering the decision. You can correct yourself if new information matters. You can apologize for your tone without apologizing for the standard. You can remain open without becoming negotiable in every moment. Then stop explaining. The first explanation communicates. The 10th explanation often becomes an application for approval. Your responsibility is to make the boundary understandable when that is appropriate. It is not to make the boundary emotionally pleasant for everyone affected by it. The difficult part begins after the sentence. The phone rings at the old time. The same subject is raised. The private question is asked with unusual warmth. The person says, "So you do not trust me now?" The old role waits for you. This is where self-command becomes visible. Do not argue about whether you are allowed to change access. Live the change. If you said you will leave when insults begin, leave when they begin. If you said you will answer tomorrow, answer tomorrow. If you decided not to discuss the relationship with this person, say, "I am not discussing that," and move to another subject. If the invitation costs more peace than it offers, decline without inventing a dramatic excuse. Consistency may feel unnatural at first because the old pattern had momentum. You may reach for the phone before remembering. You may share too much and regret it. You may explain again because silence feels rude. Do not turn one imperfect attempt into surrender. Return to the standard. Boundaries are not proved by one flawless performance. They are built through repeated alignment. Use small practical supports. Wait before answering requests. Write your boundary sentence before the conversation. Choose the duration of a visit in advance. Use your own transportation when leaving may be necessary. Keep work communication in the appropriate written channel. Tell a trusted person what you are practicing, not so they can fight for you, but so you do not quietly abandon the decision when guilt arrives. The goal is to reduce the number of moments in which your future depends on willpower at the peak of pressure. A well-designed gate is easier to close than a gate you must rebuild during every storm. When you reduce emotional access, relief may not arrive first. Guilt may arrive, grief may arrive, loneliness may arrive. You may miss the person on the same day that you know the old closeness was damaging. You may remember their best moments and temporarily forget the pattern. You may feel cruel because they are hurt by the change. Do not treat every painful feeling as a moral verdict. Ask a more disciplined question. What exactly am I guilty of? Did I lie? Did I humiliate? Did I abandon a responsibility that is truly mine? Did I act from revenge? If so, repair what is yours. But if the guilt comes from no longer playing an unlimited role, the feeling may be the cost of changing a familiar pattern. You can feel guilt and still act justly. You can feel grief and still keep the gate closed. You can miss someone without giving them the same influence. You can be sad that a relationship cannot safely hold the closeness you wanted. Grief often reveals the difference between the relationship you had and the relationship you kept hoping to create. Let that loss be honest. Do not convert it into contempt. You do not need to make the other person evil to make distance legitimate. You do not need an audience to certify that you were hurt enough. You do not need to post a final message, announce your peace, or display how little you care. Quiet change is still change. And if you reopen access, do it because evidence has changed, not because discomfort became loud. Reduced access does not always have to be permanent. But restoration should be slower than apology. Words can change in one conversation. A pattern changes across time. Look for conduct that is specific and sustained. The person can name what they did without hiding behind your reaction. They make repair without demanding that you erase the consequence. They respect the smaller level of access instead of treating it as an insult. They do not pressure you to trust faster. They behave differently when frustrated, not only when afraid of losing you. They accept that closeness is rebuilt through reliability. Restore one level at a time. Do not hand back every key because one door was handled well. Share something small before something private. Observe how a minor no is received before trusting a major boundary. Notice whether respect survives disagreement. Notice whether the new behavior remains when the crisis is over. This is not a test designed to make someone perform. It is ordinary observation. Trust is not suspicion. Trust is confidence supported by experience. If experience changes, confidence can change. If the pattern returns, you do not need another philosophical debate. Return access to the level the evidence supports. Restoration also requires you to resist a common temptation, searching for certainty. You may want proof that the person will never repeat the behavior. No relationship can offer that proof. The goal is not certainty. It is reasonable trust based on present conduct. You can move carefully without interrogating every gesture. You can notice improvement without pretending the past did not happen. You can welcome repair without making your peace depend on its success. And you can change your judgment again if reality changes. This flexibility is not weakness. It is what keeps a boundary from becoming either blind trust or permanent resentment. Some people cannot be easily removed from your life. You may share a workplace, a family responsibility, a home, a community, or a legal obligation. In those situations, reduced access becomes more precise. Keep communication practical. Use clear times and channels. Do not discuss private subjects during necessary contact. Document what must be documented. Bring in appropriate professional, organizational, legal, or safety support when the situation requires it. Stoicism is not a command to endure preventable harm alone. It is also not a substitute for professional help. If there are threats, coercion, violence, stalking, or serious safety concerns, the problem is larger than a conversational boundary. Seek qualified local support and prioritize safety. For ordinary difficult contact, build a smaller field. What must be discussed? What does not need to be discussed? When will the interaction begin? When will it end? What subject closes the conversation? What support will you use if the pattern escalates? Precision protects you from two extremes: helpless exposure and dramatic war. You may not control the entire environment. You can still reduce unnecessary entry into your inner life. The deepest test of a boundary is its purpose. Are you reducing access to protect what must be protected? Or are you withholding access so the other person will panic, chase, regret, or submit? The outside may look similar: fewer calls, less information, more distance. But punishment keeps your attention tied to their reaction. You watch to see whether they noticed. You measure whether they suffered. You imagine the moment they return. Protection returns your attention to your own conduct. You use the quiet to recover judgment. You keep promises to yourself. You invest in relationships that can hold mutual respect. You build a life that does not require one person's approval to feel stable. The purpose is not to close every door. It is to stop confusing an open door with a good heart. A good heart still needs judgment. Compassion without judgment becomes repeated permission. Judgment without compassion becomes bitterness. Stoic strength asks for both. See the person as human. See the pattern as real. Act without hatred. Protect without performance. Speak when speech serves truth. Leave when participation serves only repetition. Restore access when conduct supports it. Reduce access when evidence requires it. You are not deciding who deserves dignity. Everyone does. You are deciding who receives proximity, privacy, availability, and influence. Those are not universal rights inside your life. They are forms of trust, and trust must have architecture. The next time someone hurts you, do not ask only whether they are sorry. Ask what the pattern has taught you. Ask what access is wise now. Then let your behavior answer. If this reflection helped you see your boundaries more clearly, like the video, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone learning to protect their peace.